Anna was easing her car into a parking spot, her maneuvers awkward due to her inexperience. Having not driven for several weeks, she was determined to park properly and avoid hogging 2 spaces. However, obscured by the truck ahead, a low-hanging hitch lay in her blind spot. When her car unexpectedly nudged it, both vehicles jostled slightly, though the hitch remained unseen, hidden below her line of sight. The impact was minor, leaving Anna's car with a trivial scuff, which didn't bother her much. She reassured herself that no real harm was done. Yet, her calm was shattered by a man's voice, demanding and loud, from outside her window. "Stop the car and get out! Now!" he barked. Startled, Anna rolled down her window, offering an apologetic smile. "I'm so sorry. I'm still getting the hang of driving," she explained. But the man was far from placated, his frustration evident as he exaggerated the incident. Anna, with a sigh, stepped out to assess the supposed damage. The truck was pristine, save for a smudge of paint on its hitch from her car. Her own bumper sported a small dent, but nothing more. Anna stood beside her car, facing the irate man as she tried to calm the situation. "Look, I understand it's frustrating, but the hitch is metal, and there's really no noticeable damage to your truck," she said, her voice steady but tinged with nervousness. The man, arms crossed, wasn't having any of it. "No noticeable damage. That hitch is part of my truck and you've scratched it. You can't just hit someone's vehicle and expect to walk away without making it right." Feeling cornered and unsure how to proceed, Anna took a step back. "I really didn't see it there. I'm still getting used to driving again. Please, let's not make a big deal out of this." As the man continued to press, his voice growing louder, Anna felt a wave of panic. She reached for her phone and dialed Connor, her voice shaking slightly as she explained the situation. "Connor, can you come over? There's a guy here making a big deal out of a tiny scratch, and I can't seem to calm him down." Minutes later, Connor arrived, his presence immediately bringing a new dynamic to the standoff. He assessed the situation with a quick glance before turning to the man with a conciliatory gesture. "Hey, I'm Connor. I understand there's been a little accident here. Can we maybe look at this together and figure out a fair solution?" The man, initially taken aback by Connor's intervention, repeated his grievances, his tone still edged with frustration. Connor listened patiently, then inspected the hitch and Anna's car, nodding thoughtfully. "I see what you mean, and I agree that any damage, no matter how small, is important. But let's consider the overall impact here. The hitch is indeed sturdy, and the scratch is quite minor. How about we settle this amicably? I'm willing to compensate for the inconvenience." The man hesitated, his anger cooling slightly under Connor's reasoned approach. After a tense pause, he finally nodded, though his agreement seemed reluctant. "Fine, but it's going to cost you." Connor, with a glance at Anna that conveyed a mix of apology and reassurance, reached for his wallet. "All right, let's settle this and move on. We all have better ways to spend our day, right?" With that, he handed over $100, the exchange marking the end of the confrontation. As the man's jacked-up pickup truck roared away, Connor turned to Anna, a hint of concern in his eyes. "What brought you out here, Anna?" he asked, his voice calm and steady. Anna shrugged, a mix of embarrassment and relief in her smile. "I just thought I'd drive to the grocery store, pick up some things for the house. I didn't expect this whole ordeal." Connor placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, offering a comforting smile. "Hey, it's okay. This is part of learning to drive. Everyone goes through a few bumps in the beginning. Don't let this scare you off." With a decisive nod, Connor pulled out his phone and dialed his office. After a brief conversation, he hung up and turned back to Anna with a determined look. "I've cleared my schedule for the evening. How about I ride along with you? We can take it slow, get you more comfortable behind the wheel." Grateful for the support, Anna agreed. That afternoon, Connor settled into the passenger seat of Anna's car, his presence a calming influence. Together, they drove around, Connor offering gentle guidance and encouragement as Anna navigated the streets, each turn and stop helping her regain confidence and ease behind the wheel. 1 week later, Connor was set to embark on an international business trip as a representative for an up-and-coming shoe brand that was starting to make its mark. He was tasked with giving presentations that would play a crucial role in establishing the company's global presence over the coming year. The evening before his trip, while Connor was fine-tuning his presentation, his phone suddenly rang. It was Anna. "Hey Connor," she said, a bit unsure. "I know it's incredibly last minute and you're heading out tomorrow, but is there any chance we could fit in one more driving lesson?" Connor felt a twinge of frustration. He was fully aware of the significance of his trip, but also remembered Anna's initial fear of driving. She had made great strides, yet still didn't feel confident driving on her own. "We'd have to do it really early, when the roads are pretty much empty. Can you do that?" he suggested. Anna sounded relieved and grateful. "Oh, Connor, that would be amazing. I'll make sure I'm there on time, and I won't hold you up. Just a quick session to help me feel more confident." After hanging up, Connor reset his alarm for an earlier wake-up time. At 65, Anna experienced a mix of excitement and nervousness she hadn't felt before. She decided it was finally time to learn to drive, and today was her 7th lesson with Connor. Anna had spent nearly 45 years working at the local dairy farm, where the smell of fresh hay, the sound of cows, and the routine of daily tasks were familiar comforts. She used to take the company bus every day, watching the scenery change from pastures to the town and then to her cozy home. It was at this dairy farm that she met John, her support and love for many years. John, strong and with a sparkle in his eye, drove the forklift. When they got married, they had only an old car with peeling paint but a strong engine. Back then, Anna didn't see the need to drive. John loved driving, taking them on picnics, family events, or impromptu late-night drives. Their children brought joy, chaos, and endless tasks into their lives, with John always happy to drive the family around. Anna's world turned upside down when John passed away suddenly at 70. She had never needed to drive during their time together, but now, faced with a vast and intimidating world without him, she felt compelled to learn. Even though her children were ready to help, Anna knew they had their own busy lives to manage. She felt it wasn't right to always depend on them. This realization pushed her to face her fears and start driving lessons. After weeks of practice, Anna passed her exams, and getting her driver's license was a moment of both pride and nervousness for her. Of all the people Anna asked for driving support, Connor was the most understanding and patient. Lessons with her children often ended with Anna feeling more nervous than before. "Mom, it's just the turn signals," her daughter once said, frustrated. "Why do you keep forgetting?" "I'm doing my best," Anna would reply, her voice shaky as she tried not to cry. "It's harder for me than for you." Connor's approach was different. He remained calm and used every mistake as a learning opportunity. "Oh, Anna," he'd say with a chuckle after a mix-up, his eyes sparkling with humour. "That was the gas pedal, not the brake. But it's okay. Everyone gets them confused at first." Anna would smile, feeling less anxious, and joke, "Well, I've got quite a bit to learn, haven't I?" During their lessons, the car became more than just a place for driving. It turned into a space where Anna and Connor shared stories, connecting over experiences from different times. Connor showed a real interest in Anna's memories, and he shared his own, making their age difference seem irrelevant. Their lessons became special times of learning and sharing, linking the past to the present. Anna grew to see Connor with a fondness similar to that for a family member. Their bond was unique, especially since Connor was once her son-in-law, married to her daughter Sandra. This twist in their relationship often made Anna reflect on the unexpected paths life takes. Life has a curious way of weaving stories, she'd think, remembering the times when Connor and Sandra were together. Connor and Sandra's marriage was filled with memories, but like many relationships, it faced its challenges. In the beginning, they seemed perfect together, with Sandra's beauty catching everyone's eye. However, over time, it became clear that Sandra's looks didn't match her depth of understanding or wisdom for life's tougher moments. Connor and Sandra, with his handsome looks beside her, were an attractive couple, often drawing attention from others. After getting married, Connor and Sandra created a cozy life in their own apartment. But Connor's connection with Sandra's family, especially with Anna, remained strong. Despite his own household responsibilities, Connor regularly visited Anna's house, not just for courtesy calls, but to genuinely help out. He'd fix things, work in the garden, or assist with shopping, always with enthusiasm. Anna had 2 kids, Sandra and John, who lived in another state but stayed close to the family. When John needed to move, Connor immediately took time off to help, showcasing his willingness to support family no matter the distance. Connor's authenticity set him apart in a world filled with pretense. He preferred real, meaningful actions over flashy gestures, valuing genuine connections. However, as time passed, Connor and Sandra's marriage faced challenges. Externally, they seemed perfectly happy, but privately, tensions were growing. A key issue was their shared but unfulfilled desire to have children. Sandra was particularly troubled, torn between her longing for a child and her concerns about the future of their marriage. Initially, Connor and Sandra were pretty laid back about starting a family, confident that it would happen when the time was right. But as time passed and their home remained quiet, their optimism turned into worry. The news that Connor couldn't have children was a huge blow to them both. It was a tough pill to swallow, knowing there wasn't a medical fix. Despite the pain, Connor tried to stay strong. One evening, as they sat outside with only the soft light of the patio strings illuminating their faces, Connor tried to offer some comfort. "You know, Sandra, there are lots of different ways to make a family. We'll figure ours out," he said softly. For Sandra, though, the news hit much harder. She'd always dreamed of having a child that was a little bit of both of them. Now, those dreams felt like they were slipping away. One night, when the sadness was too much, she opened up to Connor. "I can't stop thinking about it, Connor," she said, her voice shaky. "I keep picturing our child, imagining them with bits of us. What do we do now?" Connor pulled her close, trying to offer solace even though he felt just as lost. "We'll find a way through this," he assured her, his voice barely above a whisper, both of them wrapped in the uncertainty of what lay ahead. After the shock wore off, Connor began to look for other ways they could become parents. He dove into research, learning about everything from adoption to surrogacy, hopeful that he'd find an option that would resonate with them. One night, armed with a folder full of information, Connor sat down with Sandra. "Sandra," he said gently, "I've been reading up on adoption. There are so many kids out there in need of a loving home. Maybe we could be that for someone. But Sandra seemed far away, her thoughts somewhere else. To her, considering other options felt like giving up on the dream she'd cherished. Connor, trying to keep the conversation going, suggested, "What about surrogacy? It could be a way for us to have a biological connection with our child." Sandra sighed, her response soft and heavy. "I just need some time, Connor. I need to process all of this," she said. Deep down, Sandra held a strong belief that starting a family should happen in a traditional way, without the need for medical interventions or adoption. She had always imagined motherhood as a sacred journey that would unfold naturally. Sandra's need for perfection influenced every aspect of her life, from how she kept their home to her work ethic. She had a specific vision of how starting a family should look, and she wasn't ready to let go of that ideal just yet. The small disagreements they used to brush off with a hug or a chat began to turn into long silences and cold words. The joy and warmth that filled their home slowly faded, leaving a growing tension behind. Their love hadn't disappeared, but it was hidden under layers of hurt and misunderstanding. Connor, noticing how far apart they'd grown, suggested trying therapy to fix things. He hoped that talking things out with a therapist might help them sort through their feelings and find a way back to each other. After a few sessions, where they both shared their deepest worries and wishes, a day came that Connor would never forget. Sitting together on the therapist's comfortable couch, Sandra took a deep breath and softly said something that rocked Connor's world. "I want a divorce." Time seemed to freeze. Connor felt like he was falling into a bottomless pit of shock and sorrow. All their plans, dreams, and intimate moments felt like they were just illusions now. The pain was so intense, it was almost physical, pressing down on him. He looked at Sandra, hoping to find some hint that she didn't really mean it, but all he saw in her eyes was deep sadness. "Are you sure this is what you want?" Connor's voice shook as he asked, barely able to hide his desperation. Sandra's eyes, filled with tears, met his. "I really believe it's for the best, Connor," she said softly, her voice heavy with emotion. In that heart-stopping moment, Connor came face to face with the painful truth that sometimes, no matter how deep the love, life can take people on different paths, and dreams can change. The ache of that realization would linger with him for a long while. After their marriage ended, Connor was swallowed by a deep loneliness. Their home, once alive with shared moments, now felt hauntingly empty, filled only with the echoes of Sandra's laughter. His love for her remained, making it even harder to accept the stark reality of their parting. Sandra seemed to be dealing with their split differently, perhaps trying to numb her own pain or genuinely moving on. She was quick to try and leave their past behind. When Connor heard that Sandra had started seeing someone new just a few months after their divorce was finalized, the news felt like a fresh wound. Despite everything, Connor remained close to Sandra's family, especially Anna. Her warmth and understanding provided a small comfort in his world turned upside down. Anna's house had always felt like a safe haven to Connor, a place where he was appreciated and cared for. So, he kept visiting her, helping out around the house or just spending quality time together, despite the upheaval in his own life. One day, while they were sitting in the kitchen nook, enjoying a home-cooked meal, an alarming event highlighted how strong their bond was. Anna suddenly started coughing uncontrollably, her face turning red, clearly choking. Connor immediately sprang into action, his first aid training taking over. He quickly stood up went behind Anna and performed the Heimlich maneuver with precise upward thrusts. After a few tense seconds, Anna was able to breathe again as the obstruction was cleared. Catching his breath, Connor looked at Anna with deep concern. "Are you all right, Anna?" he asked, checking if she was truly okay. Anna, still a bit shaken, managed to nod. "Yes, I am now, thanks to you." "That was terrifying," she admitted, her voice still a bit weak. Connor gently put his arm around her, offering comfort. "I'm just relieved I was here to help. You've got to be more careful," he said, his relief evident in his tone. That scary moment made their relationship even stronger, proving that true care and affection can shine through, even when family ties and personal lives get complicated. The incident in Anna's kitchen had a profound impact on her, and she felt it was important for Sandra to know about Connor's brave actions. However, Sandra's response was not what Anna expected. When Anna told her about the choking incident, hoping for some gratitude or relief, Sandra looked skeptical. "Mum, that sounds like something Connor would do," Sandra remarked dismissively. "Just seems like another attempt to get back into our good graces and play the hero." Anna was shocked by her daughter's cynical view. "Sandra, I was there. It was real. He saved my life. Can't you see he really cares about us?" she insisted. Sandra just shook her head, her frustration showing. "Connor always has to be the center of attention. I'm not convinced by this story," she countered. Anna felt a deep sadness at Sandra's stubborn refusal to see the truth. "It's heartbreaking that you're so blinded by your bias," she said quietly. "Connor has always been there for us, more than he needed to be. The least you could do is acknowledge that." Their conversation ended on a strained note, with Sandra's disbelief creating an unexpected rift between mother and daughter. Hurt by Sandra's refusal to recognize a genuine act of kindness, Anna found herself pulling away, unable to understand her daughter's skepticism towards Connor. Life goes on, with its ups and downs, and Sandra was moving forward, immersed in the excitement of her upcoming wedding. Connor's life was draped in a veil of loneliness, starkly contrasting the bustling new chapter in Sandra's life. However, an unexpected twist of fate was about to add a new dimension to his solitary existence. Walking home from work one evening, deep in thought, Connor's attention was caught by the faint, sorrowful cries of a small creature. Looking down, he found a tiny forlorn kitten rummaging through a discarded paper bag, its fur unkempt and eyes pleading. Feeling an immediate connection with the kitten's vulnerability, which mirrored his own sense of isolation, Connor didn't hesitate. He gently picked up the kitten and brought it home, naming his new companion Loki. Loki brought a ray of light into Connor's life, filling his quiet evenings with playful energy and unexpected bouts of laughter. The once silent apartment now resonated with Loki's contented purring and enthusiastic meows, breaking the monotony of Connor's solitude. Loki's arrival wasn't just a turning point for Connor. Fate had more in store, intertwining lives in ways yet unseen. It had been 10 months since the divorce, and each day without Sandra weighed heavily on Connor. On this particular morning, as the sun cast a golden glow over the city, Connor was getting ready for a visit to Anna's. He packed his suitcase with care, casting a final look over his apartment before setting off. Arriving at Anna's, he was greeted by the inviting scent of breakfast. Anna, ever the gracious host, had prepared a warm meal of buttered toast, scrambled eggs, and freshly brewed coffee. Over breakfast, they reminisced about the past and shared laughs, the comfort of old memories easing the weight on Connor's heart. Anna, sensing the depth of Connor's struggles, felt a profound empathy for him, wishing there was more she could do to ease his pain. Despite the fact that Connor was Sandra's ex-husband, Anna often felt a stronger connection with him than with her own daughter. She had tried many times to understand Sandra's perspective, but their discussions would typically escalate into arguments with Sandra insisting, "Mum, it's my life!" As the morning wore on, Connor excused himself to use the restroom, only to find the door handle uncooperative. He jiggled it a bit, puzzled. Hearing the commotion, Anna called from the kitchen. "Oh, that door's a bit tricky. You have to pull it towards you a bit, then push down on the handle." Laughing off the minor inconvenience, Connor decided to head to the shed instead, familiar with every corner of Anna's house due to the countless hours he'd spent there, fixing things and lending a hand even after the divorce. Anna watched from the kitchen as Connor made quick work of repairing the stubborn door handle, admiration and affection evident in her gaze. She appreciated his unwavering support and resilience, silently wishing for life to bring him the joy and companionship he deserved. Deep down, she harbored a hope that fate would one day introduce Connor to someone who would value and love him just as deeply as she did. After their driving session, Anna and Connor pulled into the driveway, marking the end of their time together for now. As they sat in the car, Anna turned to Connor with a hint of emotion in her voice. "You know, Connor, if you ever decide to move away for good, I'll really miss you." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her feelings. Connor, caught off guard by the depth of her sentiment, found himself at a loss for words. He simply leaned over and gave her a warm hug. "Thank you, Anna," he whispered, "for everything, for being like a second mother to me." They shared a prolonged embrace, a silent acknowledgement of their special connection. Eventually, Connor pulled away, started his car, and headed towards the airport, lost in thought about the journey ahead. His reverie was interrupted by the sound of his phone, a meow ringtone that reminded him of Loki. Loki! Connor suddenly remembered his furry friend, whom he'd inadvertently overlooked in the rush of his departure. Glancing at the clock, he realized there was still time before his flight. Anna immediately came to mind as the perfect person to look after Loki. However, as Connor stood anxiously outside her door after several unanswered calls, he couldn't help but worry. It wasn't like Anna to be so silent, and the unease in the pit of his stomach grew with each passing moment. Connor's business trip had been intense, filled with endless meetings and negotiations. While it was a success, securing new deals for his company, the pace had left him drained and eager to return home. His plans hit a snag when his flight was delayed by a severe storm, leaving him stranded at the airport with several hours to wait. Finding a spot on a bench in the departure lounge, Connor tried to relax. Not long after, a woman and her lively young son sat next to him. The boy, full of energy, began to kick his mother's suitcase repeatedly, despite her attempts to get him to stop. "Please, honey, stop kicking the suitcase. I've told you. I'm too tired to play right now," the mother said, her voice a mix of exhaustion and patience. The boy, undeterred, continued with his antics, seemingly in his own world and not fully grasping his mother's fatigue. Connor watched the interaction, a faint smile crossing his face. The boy's persistent requests for another suitcase ride caught Connor's attention, and he saw a chance to help out. With a friendly smile, he turned to the boy and said, "Hey there, buddy. Want to take a spin on my suitcase instead?" The boy's face immediately brightened. "Can I, really?" "Yeah, let's have some fun while we wait," Connor said with a laugh, exchanging an understanding glance with the boy's relieved mother. They started wandering around the terminal. The boy, who introduced himself as Elijah, riding on Connor's suitcase like a little king on his chariot. As they moved, Elijah bombarded Connor with a flurry of questions about everything they saw. "Why are the airport lights so shiny?" he asked, squinting up at the ceiling. "And do planes fly even when it's super rainy?" he continued, full of wonder. Connor took his time to answer each question, his responses sparking even more curiosity in Elijah. Impressed by Connor's knowledge, Elijah finally asked, "Are you a teacher or something?" Connor laughed, ruffling Elijah's hair. "Nope, I'm just someone who likes to ask questions and learn. Kind of like you," he said, enjoying the simplicity and genuine interest in Elijah's questions. As Elijah gazed at the Superman action figure behind the toy store window, his eyes full of quiet admiration, Connor noticed the absence of a typical child's tantrum for a new toy. Instead, Elijah simply looked on with silent longing. Elijah's mom, Amber, came up beside him, her voice gentle yet firm. "We talked about this, remember? We can't get it today." Connor caught Amber's eye, his glance asking permission without words. After a brief hesitation, she gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Connor stepped into the store and soon emerged with the action figure, handing it to Elijah with a friendly smile. "Here you go, buddy. Every hero needs a partner in their adventures," he said, his voice warm. Amber was visibly moved, murmuring her thanks to Connor. "You didn't have to do that, but thank you so much." Connor's simple gesture brightened the atmosphere, making the long wait more enjoyable. As time passed, Connor and Amber engaged in deeper conversation, and he learned about her life. Amber, with her kind eyes and strong character, was navigating the challenges of single motherhood. As Elijah entertained himself with imaginative play, Amber opened up about their past. "He still misses his dad," she whispered, the pain evident in her voice. "It's been hard. His dad was a helicopter pilot, loved flying more than anything. He always said the sky was his true home. But during a test flight for a new helicopter, something went terribly wrong and he didn't come home." Connor offered words of comfort to Amber, acknowledging the unpredictability of life, but also pointing out the bright energy that Elijah brought into their lives. "I'm really sorry for your loss," he said sincerely. "But you've got Elijah, and he's quite the little adventurer, isn't he?" Amber managed a small smile through her tears, grateful for the kindness. "Yeah, he is. It's just, sometimes I worry he might want to follow in his dad's footsteps, and that scares me." As they continued to chat, Elijah, worn out from his imaginative adventures, began to drift off to sleep, eventually resting against Connor's leg. The moment was bittersweet, and Connor gently moved Elijah onto the seat, making him comfortable with a travel pillow Amber provided. Connor couldn't help but feel a deep empathy for Amber, knowing the complex emotions she must be grappling with as a single parent with such a loss. He admired her strength and resilience, evident even in her moments of vulnerability. There was a part of him that wished he could do more to help, to offer more than just words of comfort. Feeling an unexpected connection to Amber and Elijah, Connor realized he felt an unusual sense of belonging with them, a homesickness for a place he'd never been. He knew their paths might never cross again after today, given the different directions their lives were taking. As their time together at the airport drew to a close, Connor decided to leave his contact information with Amber. He wrote down his phone number on a piece of paper. "If you and Elijah are ever in my area, don't think twice about reaching out. It'd be great to catch up," Connor said warmly, hoping to keep the door open for future encounters. Amber's smile was a mix of appreciation and surprise at the kindness of a stranger turned friend. "Thanks, Connor. That means a lot," she responded. Back from his trip, Connor was looking forward to catching up with Anna, eager to show her the thoughtful gifts he'd brought back. As he pulled up to her house, however, the sight that greeted him was alarming. Workers were busy at the scene, clearing out what looked like remnants of a fire, though the house's exterior appeared intact. A knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. He approached one of the workers urgently. "What's going on here? Is everyone all right?" Connor's voice was tinged with panic. "Kitchen fire," the worker replied casually, pausing his work to wipe away sweat. "Don't know much more than that. We're just here to fix up the damage." Connor's concern deepened. "Anna, is she okay? Have you seen her?" he pressed. The worker could only offer a helpless shrug. "Haven't seen the owners around. Sorry." Connor then noticed Anna's neighbor, Ray, and quickly made his way over. "Ray, do you know if Anna's all right?" "What happened here?" he asked, his voice urgent. Ray stopped his lawn mowing and looked up, recognizing Connor. "Oh, Connor, you're back." "Yeah, Anna's okay, thank heavens. Scary kitchen fire a few days back, but she's fine. Shook up, but fine," Ray explained, his tone reassuring. A wave of relief washed over Connor, but it was quickly replaced by a pang of worry for Loki. "Do you know if Loki's okay?" Ray, with a hint of amusement in his voice, responded, "I'm not too sure about your cat, but here's something that might cheer you up. Anna's been driving like a pro lately. Seems like those lessons you gave her really paid off," he said, letting out a hearty laugh. Connor managed a small smile, his worry for Anna and Loki slightly eased by Ray's light-hearted comment. "I'm glad to hear that. Thanks, Ray. I'll get in touch with Anna," he said, still concerned but grateful for the update. Ray clapped Connor on the shoulder in a friendly gesture, offering silent support. Connor made his way back to his car, his mind racing with thoughts of Anna and Loki. He was determined to find out if they were both safe. A few days later, his phone finally rang with a call from Anna. He answered immediately, his heart lifting at the sound of her voice. "Connor, I'm terribly sorry I couldn't get in touch earlier. The fire damaged quite a bit, including my phone," Anna began, her voice tinged with exhaustion. Connor expressed his relief at hearing from her. "I saw the damage at your place. I'm just relieved to hear your voice, Anna. How are you holding up?" Anna sighed. "I managed to get a new phone today. I've been trying to let everyone know I'm all right. It's been a tough few days." Connor's main concern came to the forefront. "I'm just glad you're safe, Anna. That's all that matters," he said, his voice full of genuine worry for her well-being. Anna mentioned she was staying with Sandra and her boyfriend Tempera Riley. "They're out for the weekend, but feel free to come over," she suggested. Connor, still anxious, quickly asked, "How's Loki doing?" Fearing the worst. Anna hesitated, making Connor brace himself for bad news. "You remember my cat allergies?" she started, and Connor immediately felt guilty, recalling her allergies he'd completely overlooked in his rush. "I'm so sorry, Anna. I had no one else to leave him with that day. I hope he didn't cause any trouble," Connor apologized, worried his oversight might have contributed to the fire incident. Anna cut him off with a chuckle. No, let me finish. Turns out I'm not allergic anymore," she revealed, her laughter lightening the mood. "Loki's here with me, safe and sound. I'll fill you in on the details when you see us. We'll be waiting, Connor." Hearing that Loki was okay lifted a huge weight off Connor's shoulders, but the thought of visiting Sandra's place brought a mix of emotions. The memories of their shared past, both sweet and painful, made him apprehensive. Pushing aside his reservations, Connor agreed to visit. "I'll be there," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Arriving at Sandra's apartment, Connor took a moment to collect himself before heading inside. The moment he saw Anna, smiling warmly with Loki in her arms, all his worries faded. After a heartfelt hug with Anna, Connor turned his attention to Loki, who seemed just as happy to see him. "Hey there, Loki," he greeted the kitten with genuine affection, feeling a sense of homecoming in their reunion. Anna's laughter was light as she commented on Loki's companionship. "He's been quite the little guardian, keeping me company." As Connor reached over to pet Loki, feeling the kitten's soothing purrs, Anna invited him in with a warm smile. "Let's sit down and catch up, shall we?" As they settled in, Anna's affection for Loki was evident in her gentle strokes. She shared a heartfelt look with Connor, her eyes brimming with tears, and moved in for a heartfelt hug. Connor could feel the dampness of her tears through his shirt, a testament to the depth of her emotions. Stepping back, Anna dabbed at her eyes, offering a small, shaky smile. "I must seem silly, getting all teary over a cat," she admitted. "But Loki, he's more than just a pet. He saved my life." She recounted the night of the fire with vivid detail, describing how she was awoken by Loki's insistent meowing and nudging. Initially dismissing it as typical feline behavior, she quickly realized the danger as the smell of smoke reached her. The kitchen fire had already begun to spread rapidly. Looking into Connor's eyes, her gratitude was palpable. "If Loki hadn't woken me, I don't know if I would have made it out in time. And to think it was you who brought him into our lives. It feels like there was a reason for it all, some kind of fate at work," she said, her voice laden with emotion and wonder at the serendipity of their interconnected lives. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on Connor as he processed the impact Loki, and by extension he, had on Anna's safety. "I'm just relieved you're okay, Anna. It feels like Loki was meant to come into our lives at just the right moment," he said, the emotion evident in his voice. Anna, her eyes still moist with tears, responded warmly. "Loki's not just a pet anymore. He's part of the family, and so are you, Connor." As the conversation shifted to Connor's recent business trip and his encounter with Amber and Elijah, Anna's curiosity was unmistakable. Her keen gaze didn't miss the subtle shift in Connor's demeanor as he spoke about them. "There's a certain look you get, Connor, just like when you used to talk about Sandra. What's going on?" she probed gently. Connor brushed off the implication with a weary smile. "It's nothing like that with Amber and Elijah. But their story, it struck a chord with me," he explained. Anna listened intently, her expression turning to one of understanding. She reassured him. "Sometimes people come into our lives just when we need them, for reasons we might not immediately understand." The mention of the helicopter crash and its connection to Amber's past brought a look of realization to Anna's face. "I remember that incident. It was such a heartbreaking story," she reflected, the sadness clear in her voice. As time moved on, life slowly returned to its usual pace. Anna's kitchen was restored, and she returned home, with Loki now fully integrated into her and Connor's lives, marking a new chapter for all involved. Connor's recent success at work had led to an unexpected promotion offer, which required relocating to the company's main office. It was a fantastic opportunity, yet the thought of leaving behind his familiar life filled him with mixed emotions. He requested some time from his boss to consider the offer. "Take the time you need, Connor," his boss reassured him, understanding the weight of such a life-altering decision. "But remember, opportunities like this don't come often. With Connor's birthday approaching, Anna decided to organise a special celebration to cheer him up. She extended a heartfelt invitation, promising a cosy evening with homemade cake and dinner. Despite not being much for birthdays anymore, Connor appreciated Anna's thoughtfulness and agreed to join her. Arriving at Anna's, the sight of 2 unknown cars in the driveway stirred a flicker of unease in Connor, half expecting Sandra might be there, despite their mutual agreement to maintain distance. However, noticing the out-of-state license plates, his anxiety gave way to curiosity, and he proceeded inside, intrigued by the surprise awaiting him. As he entered, the room was plunged into darkness, heightening the suspense. Suddenly, confetti showered over him as lights flicked on, revealing a room filled with smiling faces. As Connor took in the scene before him, his surprise grew. John, his former brother-in-law, was at the heart of the celebration, his laughter booming through the room, dressed in an outlandish outfit that only added to the festive atmosphere. The room was alive with the energy of his family, all joining in the celebration. But it was the sight of Amber and Elijah among the guests that truly took Connor aback. They stood off to the side, clapping softly, their faces alight with genuine smiles. The unexpected presence of these new friends in such a familiar setting left Connor momentarily speechless, caught up in the whirlwind of warm embraces and cheerful shouts of "Happy birthday!" Connor's eyes eventually met Amber's across the room. Something about that brief exchange made his heart race. Feeling a surge of pure happiness, Connor lifted Elijah into the air, setting him on his shoulders. Together, they joined in the festivities, moving to the beat of the music and the joyful noise that filled Anna's home. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and the warmth of both old and new connections, Connor felt a sense of contentment and belonging he hadn't experienced in a long time. Anna had always been perceptive, and she couldn't help but notice the spark in Connor's eyes whenever he recounted his unexpected meeting with Amber and Elijah at the airport. It was clear to her that their brief interaction had left a significant impression on him, hinting at a deeper connection than just a mere coincidence. Motivated by a desire to see Connor find true happiness again, Anna took it upon herself to track down Amber. After some diligent online searching, she stumbled upon Amber's social media profile. With a hopeful heart, Anna sent a friend request and a brief message explaining how Connor had spoken of their airport encounter. To Anna's delight, Amber responded positively, and they quickly struck up a conversation. It wasn't long before they were sharing a long phone call, during which Anna opened up about Connor's past. She spoke with honesty and care, detailing Connor's marriage to her daughter, their struggles with infertility, and how Connor had become like a son to her over the years. Amber, touched by Anna's heartfelt recounting of Connor's journey, found herself reflecting on their brief encounter at the airport. "Anna, hearing about Connor from you, it's like I'm seeing a whole new side to him. When we met, I was so caught up in my own story, I didn't really ask about his," Amber admitted. Anna, understanding the complexity of human connections, replied warmly, "It's easy to get lost in our own stories, dear. Connor has been through a lot, but he's one of the strongest people I know, and despite everything, he's always willing to lend a helping hand, just like he did with you and Elijah." Amber nodded, feeling a newfound respect for Connor. "I could sense his kindness, even in that short time we spent together. Elijah hasn't stopped talking about him since," she shared, a soft chuckle escaping her lips. "That's just like Connor," Anna said with a laugh. Amber shared with Anna how Elijah had become quite taken with Connor, asking about him repeatedly after their return home. He's been asking to see Connor again, imagining all sorts of adventures they could go on, Amber explained, her voice tinged with affection for her son's innocent wishes. Feeling a pang of disappointment, Amber recounted her frustration upon realizing the piece of paper with Connor's contact details was lost. "I even prayed we'd cross paths with Connor again, for Elijah's sake," she admitted, the hope in her voice evident. Seizing the opportunity, Anna proposed an idea. "How about you and Elijah come over for a small get-together? It's actually for Connor's birthday. I bet he'd be thrilled to see you both," Anna suggested, her tone inviting. The celebration that ensued was filled with warmth and joy, encapsulating the essence of camaraderie and unexpected reunions. Connor, surrounded by the laughter of friends, both old and new, including Amber and Elijah, found himself overwhelmed with a deep sense of fulfillment and contentment. The evening unfolded like a beautiful narrative of shared tales, laughter that echoed through the rooms, and the forging of bonds that promised new beginnings. It was a testament to the unpredictable yet beautiful ways life can bring people together, marking a hopeful start to a new chapter in Connor's journey. As the evening waned and the guests began to depart, Connor found himself lingering in the quiet aftermath of the party, helping Anna tidy up. The warmth of the night still hung in the air, a reminder of the laughter and stories that had filled the room just hours before. Amber, who had stayed back to assist with the cleanup, was putting away some dishes when Connor approached her. "Hey, Amber?" he started, a hint of hesitation in his voice. "I wanted to thank you for coming. It meant a lot to me, and I'm sure Anna appreciated it too." Amber smiled, placing the last of the dishes on the rack. "We wouldn't have missed it for the world. Elijah had a blast," she added, her gaze meeting his. There was a pause, a moment suspended in time, as they stood in the soft glow of the kitchen light. "You know, Amber," Connor continued, the words tumbling out with a newfound courage, "today was more than just a birthday for me. It felt like a new beginning, and I'm glad you were a part of it." Amber's heart fluttered at his words, the sincerity in his voice unmistakable. The air between them was charged with unspoken emotions, drawing them closer. Connor reached out, his hand gently brushing against hers, their eyes locked in a silent conversation. The world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in the quiet kitchen. Slowly, almost hesitantly, Connor leaned in, his gaze never leaving Amber's. She met him halfway, their lips touching in a tender, tentative kiss that spoke volumes. It was a kiss that sealed the promise of new beginnings and the hope of what was yet to come. Sitting together on the couch, wrapped in the comfort of each other's presence, Connor found the words he'd been searching for. "Amber," he began, his voice soft yet earnest. "These past few hours, this evening, it's been incredible. More than I could have hoped for." He paused, searching her eyes for understanding, for a glimpse of shared feelings. Amber, sensing the gravity of his words, turned to face him fully, her expression open and attentive. Connor took a deep breath, his decision clear. "I was wondering, would you and Elijah consider staying here, with me, for just a week? I can't shake this feeling of how right it feels to have you both here, to experience what it's like to be part of a family, even if just for a little while." The vulnerability in his request hung in the air, a silent plea for a chance to explore the semblance of a life he'd longed for, but never truly believed he could have. Amber's heart swelled at his words, touched by his honesty and the genuine longing she heard in his voice. She reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers, a gesture of connection and reassurance. "Connor," she replied, her voice laced with warmth and a hint of shared hope. "Let's give it a try. A week to explore this feeling, this possibility. For Elijah, for us. Let's see where this journey takes us." Throughout the week, Connor, Amber, and Elijah wove a tapestry of small, precious moments that together built the foundation of a makeshift family life. They started each morning with breakfast together, where Connor learned just how much Elijah loved his pancakes, with an excessive amount of syrup. They spent afternoons in the park, where Connor pushed Elijah on the swings, higher and higher, as Amber captured these fleeting moments on her camera, her heart swelling with joy. One evening, they attempted a board game marathon that ended in laughter and mock accusations of cheating. Another day was dedicated to a makeshift science fair at home, with vinegar and baking soda volcanoes that left the kitchen in a mess but their hearts full of warmth. It was during one of these quiet evenings, as they sat on the porch watching the stars, that Connor and Elijah shared a particularly tender moment. Elijah smiled, his eyes lighting up. "I wish we could have more weeks like this. You make Mum smile a lot, and I like it when she's happy." Connor's heart felt like it might burst with a mixture of joy and a bittersweet realization of the temporary nature of this bliss. "Buddy, making you both happy makes me happy too. And who knows what the future holds, right?" Elijah nodded, seemingly content with Connor's answer, and leaned against him, comfortable and secure in the shared silence that followed, both of them staring up at the vast, starry sky, daring to dream of more weeks, more moments like these. The week with Amber and Elijah had been incredible, and he found himself wishing it would never end. Amber seamlessly blended into the routines of Connor's home, taking on daily tasks with a familiarity that suggested she'd been there all along. By Sunday, she was ironing Connor's work clothes, a simple act that somehow signified so much more. That evening, as they enjoyed a quiet, comfortable dinner, Amber broke the silence with a seemingly innocent question. "Hey, Connor, got any requests for dinner tomorrow night?" she asked, glancing up at him with a casual smile. Connor paused, the weight of her question sinking in. It wasn't just about dinner, it was about the future, about them possibly staying. Elijah, sensing the positive vibe, beamed, his earlier playfulness returning. "Can we really stay, Mom?" he asked, barely containing his excitement. Amber reached across the table, squeezing Connor's hand. "If Connor's okay with it, I think we might just have found our new favorite dinner spot," she said, her eyes sparkling with a mix of gratitude and hope. The next morning, Connor headed to work with a spring in his step, the prospect of returning home to Amber and Elijah making the day ahead feel less daunting. Each task he completed, every meeting he attended, was done with an efficiency driven by his eagerness to get back to them. The hours couldn't pass quickly enough. He was counting down the minutes until he could return to the warmth and laughter that now filled his previously quiet home. As he finally closed the door behind him that evening, the sounds of Amber and Elijah bustling in the kitchen, the aroma of a home-cooked meal wafting through the air, he realized how profoundly his life had changed in just a short week. Connor now had a family, and it was everything he'd hoped for and more. One day the family was at the park. Connor, Amber, and Elijah were in the midst of a playful tug-of-war when Connor's gaze drifted and landed on a figure he hadn't seen in a long time. Sandra was there, gently pushing a baby stroller. The sight of her, now a mother, living a separate life, stirred a mix of emotions in Connor. As Sandra's eyes wandered and fell upon the scene before her, Connor laughing and playing with Elijah and Amber, she felt a twinge of sadness, This was the family life Connor had always envisioned, something she hadn't fully embraced during their time together. Watching them, she couldn't help but feel a sense of loss for what might have been. After a moment, Sandra mustered the courage to approach. "Connor," she called out softly, her voice breaking the joyful noise of their game. She glanced at Amber and Elijah, then back at Connor. I see you've built the family you've always wanted," she said, her voice laced with a mix of happiness for him and regret for her own choices. Connor nodded, a kind smile on his face. Sandra took a deep breath, her next words heavy with emotion. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry, Connor. I'm glad you found happiness." Connor's expression softened further, understanding the courage it took for her to express her feelings. "Thank you, Sandra. That means a lot. I've moved on, and I hold no grudges. I hope you find your happiness too." The conversation, brief yet profound, allowed a closure they both needed. Sandra gave a small, grateful nod and turned to leave, pushing the stroller gently ahead of her. Connor returned to Amber and Elijah, the momentary pause in their play now over. But the encounter left a subtle imprint on the day, a reminder of the past and a nod to the new beginnings that life